Hey guys, this is Pedro back with another interview, this time covering the VCT as always. And so for this occasion, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a different approach. I'm not talking to a player, I'm not talking to a coach, I'm not talking to a content creator, I'm talking to executives of a given org that will be competing in VCT for 2025 as for exactly what that org is. It is none other than Apeks, of course, the Apeks squad that qualified for VCT EMEA for the 2025 season after winning Ascension at the end of the 2024 season. And as for exactly who these people are that represent Apeks, it is Kjær, the CEO and co-founder of Apeks, and also Einar, Grannes, business development manager for Apeks. I'm glad that you guys are here to give me a chance to talk to you guys about the org and what's been going on, and also qualifying for VCT for next year. So I'm gonna get started off with that first topic. Winning the Ascension. I mean, I can understand that like it's fair to say that the stakes were very high for this org in the lead up to that final event. And so, jumping ahead over to the finals, what was going through your mind, when you guys were in that fight against Pacific for that final or for that lone spot for VCT next year?
Yeah, I mean, me and firstly, thank you for having us, by the way, as well. Super cool that, at least we spiked some interest and people are interested to hear what we are thinking. So that's super cool. Yeah, me and Einar was sitting next to each other in Berlin. And that was a roller coaster that I want to remember it because it had a happy ending. But like map 4 had me through some emotions that like I didn't feel for quite a long time. That was really, but I mean, it had everything you want, right? Because you don't want it to be easy. You want it to be kind of difficult to watch, but at the same time, like you see the players being able to do what they did, and it gives you just a better feeling when you cross the finish line. And I think, facing Pacific with players who had absolutely nothing to lose, with that mentality and, that young, fresh carelessness, I think that's like probably one of the most difficult kind of opponents you can have in a match where you have this much of consequences, which all of our players knew about, right? So it was incredibly high pressure. It's almost like coming from CS, what you said, that the RMR games are usually a lot more challenging than the actual major games themselves, because everybody knows what's at stake, and that's kind of similar. But it was fantastic, and everybody knew what was at stake, and the feeling afterwards, it's unmatched. Yeah, you're muted.
Yeah, hello. I'm gonna go over to you, Einar, because when I first was contacted by you guys to do this interview, you mentioned that you were the one in charge of like the start of the VALORANT project for Apeks, and so obviously for you, you've been kind of focusing on this project for the past 2 years, not just focusing on this year in 2023, because back in 2023, you guys were in that same position in the finals, facing off against Gentlemates. That went the other direction. And so, when you guys were heading into that map 5, did you kind of also get that sense of like, oh no, here we go again?
Yeah, I think we definitely had some flashbacks on that third map where we were down 2-1 in map score, and they had like a 8-4 lead, I think. And I think, yeah, we just started seeing the whole previous year in flashback, and we were kind of slumped in our seats, feeling a bit defeated at that point. But then, yeah, I think we had players who had gone through some difficult matches previously and had like good comeback momentum. So yeah, so I think it was kind of a good situation for us where we had players who were mentally strong enough to get back into the game at such a difficult point.
I think it'd be fair to say that when map 5 finished in finals was finally done and over with, and Apeks finally secured that VCT EMEA spot for next season, what was going through both of you guys' mind? What did you kind of think of first that when that feeling finally settled in?
Yeah, Anders, you can start.
Okay, yeah, you go. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, immediately realized like how much work was ahead of us. I've like slightly been through the process of relocating a esports team to Berlin before, so I knew there's a lot of I knew like some of what that process entails. So I think that I was kind of immediately in back at the office, kind of mentally. But very relieved. Yeah, I think we were very ecstatic at that point.
Yeah, I think it's very much the same as Einar says. Like he even to a bigger extent than me is very in charge of the whole Berlin operation. And there is incredibly amounts of work there. Obviously, coming from my side, having founded Apeks, like winning this Ascension was a little bit do or die for us. Not to the extent that we would stop all operations, but to the extent where this would unlock the doors where we could keep probably expanding and keep playing at the level that we did in CS and VALORANT, and maintaining our presence at the top of esports. Essentially, the consequence could have been that we were now a national Norwegian team that were doing like a lot of maybe tier 3, tier 4s, all the way down there. So this was able to keep our ambitions to actually become a top dog alive. So there was a lot of relief and happiness, obviously, in that moment. Super happy that map 5 was a kind of a walkover that was good to my heart. That we were able to be that easy, so to say. We just found momentum and used it. Was happy to see that. But the whole qualifying for VCT is probably the biggest thing that we have ever achieved as a club as well, because it's such a hard thing to set out on. I called it to others, like it's a kind of a stupid gamble what we did, going for it initially, because we believe very much in our ability to put together teams that we have done for like a long time, no matter what game. But still, like, just there's so much luck that also needs to be involved by winning the right game, not losing at the wrong time, not having an off day at the wrong time, not something having made them emotional at the wrong day. Like there's so much stuff that can go wrong, right? So we just, looking back at it, I don't know if I would do it again, like the same way at least, because it is incredibly hard, but super happy when it first landed.
I gotta ask you, Anders, as someone has been kind of with the operation, not just in Valorant, but like in other projects within the Apeks org. We've seen most recently Apeks make Copenhagen Major and Paris Major. So out of curiosity, is making VCT, was that feeling better than the majors?
I think nothing can beat our first major, but that's also because I'm a CS person. So it was something we chased for so many years. So the qualifying part is, the first time, I really got that emotional, we made it in esports, which was huge outside for being a player yourself. You always have goals then, but that was like incredible. But like from a business perspective and getting to work with the concept of VCT and working with Riot, I think that's the most excited I've been on behalf of Apeks for what it could mean for the future, if that makes sense. Like on my personal level, the CS major, the first one in Paris, and our owners and us getting to see it in a full packed arena playing semifinal against Vitality, that's just the next level memory to have. But the things that we can do if we play our cards right, and we do what we're good at, putting together a good team, it's super exciting. Like I genuinely think that we can make some incredible stuff happen for next year.
Yeah, and I'm gonna jump over to you, Einar, since you mentioned the feeling of just having to now focus on actually, making the process from like tier 2 to tier 1 suitable or more so smoothly. I want to ask you just sort of what's that timeline been like from the moment you guys won Ascension to now having to like rebase or more so move your operations over to Berlin, because if I'm right, you mostly had your Valorant squad based in like Norway or probably another location, right?
Yeah, so they're based at home throughout the regular season, and then we have frequent boot camps in Norway. But entering VCT EMEA, you're obligated to have them as German employees, every player, So that comes with a lot of paperwork. We have to set up a business entity in Germany. There's a lot of stuff there. There's visa, work visas, and housing. And that's a very challenging part. So kind of the timeline was that right after Ascension, very soon after, we learned that Kjær and Solkas would leave the team. So then we had the whole trial process as well that we had to think about and plan and go through, which is also very taxing work, not just for the players and the coaches, but we're also very involved. We have to, renegotiate contracts, and that's a big, hefty project as well. So ever since, like every single day since Ascension, we've had our plates full, basically, and we I can't really promise that we'll be done with everything before the season. Like there's still like stuff that we have to set out plan B and plan C in place just in case stuff isn't ready. But we've gotten really far. As of now, we have an office already. We have a business entity set up. We're like working on getting bank accounts and like finalizing some visa stuff, and housing is still a major task in Berlin. It's very challenging to find housing. So but we're plugging along slowly.
Definitely. Like I remember like this having to transition from tier 2 to tier 1 for the Ascension winning team. That's a kind of like a topic of conversation because like the reward, the hard work doesn't just finish on winning Ascension, because now you got to focus on doing as what you've been kind of describing, having to do all the paperwork, all the grunt work, and having to just accommodate all the players, and also on top of that finding new players in case the players that you won Ascension with move away, and which obviously that did happen. And so out of like 0 to 100 percentage wise, Einar, where are you guys at right now, and just having to make that transition, finish the transition?
Finish transition, I'd say probably like 70%. I think that's approximately. There's some outstanding stuff, but I think we've sorted the main issues outside of housing. But housing, like we can still like sort some Airbnbs for a few weeks until we have that fully sorted. So it's not like a complete blocker. I think one of the actual blockers that we have is like one outstanding visa issue that might cut very close to season start. So that's like the only thing that's like a real blocker for us, but we're prepared. Like we've already gone in talks with Riot to make sure we have a plan B in place, if that's the case.
And so like I'm curious about exactly like an estimation as to like exactly how much money you guys have to spend, because like obviously that's also another thing that people are wondering about, for an org to have to not just make VCT but also sustain themselves in VCT while also trying to just like kind of fight to keep their spot for the year after next year, with the new format made by Riot right around the end of the 2024 season. So for both of you guys to answer, if it be all right, what's the estimate like in just having to make all of that operation possible?
I mean, I think that's a difficult question to answer, because obviously we have a 2 years history that is taken into how you can reflect on the coming year's financials. And as we kind of wrote in or I've said, and I said it in the AMA here the other day, and it's like we genuinely thought when winning Ascension that we had 2 years. We actually hadn't. Some of our players had caught it, but we did discuss it internally. But we had gone under the mentality that we still had 2 years. The project was made with 2 years of being in VCT. Learning that you have 1 year, and you have 1 year to. It's hard with 2 years investment and then having 1 year to invest like insane amounts. So we knew quite fast that we're not gonna aim to like sign like some superstars or whatever. Like we got to realize our place here. We need to find like some hidden gem or find someone that can really make the team. But our financial we cannot or will not push that to like an absurd level. It's just not worth it. So we are keeping it incredibly what can I say, like down to earth or whatever is the right way, but like low cost in every area that we can. Like we're saving on everything. That's just because it makes sense, right? It would be worse for us to go all out and spend money this year. That's going to be incredibly hard to get back. And since me and Einar both can answer yes on the question that do we believe that we can build a team that's good enough to compete our slot given that financial expectations, and our answer is both yes, then I think it's no need for us to do anything else. You know, coming from, you know, we have learned previously that rarely things are behind the next superstars or the increased salaries or whatever. They do not necessarily lead to better results. So I do believe we have been able to, but like we have probably spent like yearly for the last 2 years, 400 to 500K each year on just the VALORANT operation in tier 2, which is obviously not sustainable whatsoever. So it's not something that we could have or would have continued with at that scale. It's just not doable. And you know, this year is obviously going to be bigger than that, and we are investing on top of, you know, some stuff, you know, stipends, etc., that everybody knows about. We are investing several hundreds above that to make sure that, you know, we have everything that we need. Can't go into details, but you know, there's a big investment for our owner to make sure that next year is going to be what it needs to be. But we are, like, our players are not going to get going into Gucci and Louis Vuitton anytime soon. That's for you know, when they enter their final boss somewhere else, I guess, or something. Yeah.
And I can add in that I think Riot have been very lucky so far with the orgs that have made it into VCT. I don't think a lot of the tier 2 orgs that were competing in Ascension would necessarily be able to front some of the costs and like deal with all of the labor that and all of the processes that you need to get through in order to actually get the team to Berlin and compete. So I think, yeah, so I think they were very lucky that it was us who qualified and not you know, some mix without an org or yeah.
Yeah, because we've seen plenty of instances where, or a few instances in which, like, we've seen an org make Ascension win it and then drop out of VCT entirely. Obviously, the one example I'm looking at is the Guard. You know, they won that in Americas, then they didn't sign the TPA first and foremost. That kind of, up to my knowledge, was the start of that process, and then that led to the players that made up the Guard to look for an org, and then that paved the way for G2. And so, yeah, in that sense, it really does make it that much like a Russian roulette, in just having to see an org in a good standing and then also seeing them ascend to tier 1, right? Because otherwise, if it doesn't happen, then we just must probably just have a situation like that, but even worse.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's it is hella expensive, and that's esport everywhere. And we're trying to be one of the guys, and we communicate this very clearly with everybody that we talk with. If it's, you know, a fixer in Berlin or like an agent of a player, like there's nothing to milk here. We're gonna give you the offer that we deem sustainable, and it's kind of like, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, we're not the place for you. That's kind of the mentality that we have to have, because we were not able to be pressured or interested in moving to levels that are unsustainable. So I guess that's our goal going into next year. It's not the easiest of the years, but you know, on an organization level, I do believe that we have the chance to, you know, go even next year, which is something we have worked for a long time to be able to do. But let's see. Like, it's all dependent on, you know, the success of the VALORANT team and how many matches we get, I guess.
You know, with that being said, though, I gotta ask you guys, Sober, just sort of why Valorant. You know, of course, at that time, like, it was at that time when you guys entered Valorant, it just started to get into its current format, in the sense of, you know, tier 1 Ascension, having to go through all that jazz to make it to tier 1, and also tier 2, having to sustain a team like that, only competing in tier 2 for the entire year, not having anything else to compete in, as in like other lands or other like tier 3 or so more so events to prepare for tier 2, and then just doing all of that. And so why Valorant? Why get into Valorant? And yeah.
Yeah, I can maybe start with that one.
It's definitely take it away, Einar, because it was your idea from the beginning.
Yeah, so I've just for context, I've spent quite a few years at Team Liquid. So I've worked very closely with Riot for many years in both League of Legends. And when Valorant came out, I was very involved in our strategy going into Valorant on the community side. I've competed like at a decent like national level in Valorant since the game came out. So I have like a decent understanding of player skill and that sort. So when I joined Apeks, we were constantly discussing that we needed more legs to stand on than just Counter-Strike. It was a bit too fragile just being in that one game and kind of having that one game be the bread and butter of the org. So we knew that Valorant or Riot has very robust ecosystems with their esport titles, and we knew they were going to focus, massively on Valorant in the years going forward. So we saw that as a good opportunity, and right at the time when we were discussing this was when the partnership process was being ended with Riot. So we saw that basically a lot of the teams that didn't get the partnerships, they just disbanded and left the game. And so we saw it as like a very good opportunity for us. We hadn't had time to be part of that application process at all. But we saw that with the players that were now free agents, we would be able to build like a extremely strong team with going and try to get through Ascension basically. And I think we created a budget for it. We started scouting players and we started working on building that project, and we didn't actually like pull the trigger on entering Valorant before we knew that we had the players that we wanted and we had the team that we knew we were like very certain that we would make it far, like have a deep Ascension run with that team. So that's kind of why we entered and why we felt like the timing was good, even though it's obviously a very small target to hit getting through Ascension.
Yeah, I think the only thing for me to add is just, from my side who didn't work with Riot, it was just even like a stronger will to just work with Riot because of their, coming from, having, as you said, like competed at a couple of majors, the last couple of years, but I've never spoken to a Valve employee. Like I've never been in touch with Valve or like talked about CS or like the way CS is or like the direction CS is going or whatever. Getting to work with someone that you can actually talk to and at least get reasoning and understanding from is a whole completely different ballgame. And I don't believe that this is 100% the way forward. So like on organization level, it's just a super good opportunity. And, we are lucky enough that we have an owner that when we presented the case, he was willing to invest into that because it's obviously a very high risk. But the opportunity, he trusts in our ability to put together teams and, looking at what we did the last 2 years, and I'm going to be as cocky as said, and I still do think that we were the better team than Gentlemates, but we choked on the most important day. And that's just how it is. Still validates the result. It's just that I don't think we saw the best of us that day, and that's unfortunate on our end. But our track record on building teams and what we put together in CS as well on scouting talent, I think we're pretty good there. So we believed in our ability to do it, because I don't think a lot of teams could be as confident as us in their ability to put together a team that's actually going to work. Because we haven't done any changes to our team in terms of like benching players or whatever. Everybody's describing it as a very family feeling. We're very together in the project. And I'm very proud of the whole Valorant division for having been able to build that like culture in the team. That everybody feels like they're at home when they're playing, and I think that gives us a very strong bond that has been able to carry us through these years.
Then going from losing Ascension 2023, now moving over to 2024. I mean, I can understand. There must have been plenty of changes on top of just having to have a different lineup because obviously going from end of 2023 to 2024, we saw basically everyone from Apeks move over to Liquid and also other organizations. And so, what was that switch over like from absorbing the loss to now having to rebuild and fielding the team that eventually won Ascension a few months ago?
Yeah, I think for us, and it's kind of the same. Like, okay, I will start with the first year. We knew from the whole get-go, and it was kind of the thing that everybody discussed. Like, we had 1-year contracts with possibility of extension given on the result of Ascension, right? So it was like we knew that no player is going to lock themselves in tier 2 for 2 years. Like, that's just unrealistic. And we didn't know much about the game in terms of salary levels and etc. And I will say that like the first year was a little bit more expensive than what it should have been, reflecting back, because we spent a little bit too much on like players in general because we thought we had to. So we were able to scale that down for year 2. But like going into the process of actually building the team, and especially after we knew that we were going to keep Danny, who was Itopata's assistant, and then he taking over as the head coach. I think me and Einar both have a really good and respect of his ability to build teams, what he looks for. We really see eye to eye on stuff, and I think we were very confident in his ability to put together teams. Like we trial for 16 weeks and 18 weeks. Like we trial for a really long period of time to make sure that we find like the right fits. It took like finding Kjær took a really long time before that season. So it's like I think we went into it with incredible confidence. And just touching slightly on like losing Soulcast and Kjær this year, on an organizational level, we are prepared for everybody to have to be replaced at all times. Like we have feelers out there to make sure that we are never like obviously I love Soulcast and Kjær, but we have to view it as opportunities to better our team than that it's like a loss or that it's somehow going to fuck us over next year or whatever, right? I think that we are able to turn everything like that into something that maybe we fix another problem that this could be effect of, right? So I don't think that neither me or Einar, apart from emotionally, and that I would obviously want, and I still think that it would be better for Kjær to go into his first VCT year with us. I think getting instantly into Fnatic, having that pressure is probably not hard on him because he's stronger, but I think that's a difficult first year to have, going into first year as a tier 1 pro on that level. I think there could be safer conditions at our place, but that's not my decision, right? But I think that we view it all as like possibilities, and I'm very confident that we have, to my feeling, done upgrades actually. So yeah.
And I guess by how you finished it, Anders, I gotta ask about the construction of the next year's roster. Obviously, the biggest name that joined Apeks most recently is Florescent, and obviously first ever instance in which a GC player made it up to tier 1. Occasionally playing in tier 2, trying to qualify for tier 2, but mostly playing in game changers and winning 2 the consecutive Game Changers World Championships with Shopify Rebellion. And so obviously I can assume that you had some a say into that decision, Einar. So just walk me through that whole timeline of bringing Florescent over. When did that happen? When did that first start to happen? And when did everything became official?
Yeah, so very soon after, or as soon as we knew Kjær was leaving and Soulcast was leaving, then we started scouting and trials. And every time someone gets wind that we're trialing, Danny gets absolutely spammed with offers from agents. He gets his inbox is quite full, so he's like looking through those profiles, and also the other players will have their suggestions for players that they want to trial. So Danny's usually pretty busy with those, and I'll be the one that looks into the more like other regional leagues. I'll look into the collegiate NA leagues, see if there's any profiles that stand out, and I'll watch a lot of VODs to see if there's anyone I feel has potential. And then I'll send those profiles to him. Sometimes, he'll just give me a blank no, and sometimes, we get some gold. And this time I scouted the Florescent. Obviously her stats are incredible, so I started watching VODs and just like you notice when you watch her play that she like does stuff that you rarely see. She has like insane reactions, super good reflexes, and her aim is like insane. So just had so much potential that we had to trial her, and we knew that she was gonna go boot camp in Berlin for GCC. And so we contacted Riot through her manager and got them to fly her out a bit early. And then we set up a boot camp for her in Berlin, where she could trial with us. And so that's when the trialing process started. We ended up trialing, I think, a little bit over 30 candidates this season in total. So it was a very long and grueling trial process for everyone. Our coach and all the players were super tired after everything, I think. But we wanted to do our due diligence and make sure we found the right picks. She quickly became a top 3 candidate, and we had a lot of discussions internally. We knew that bringing in a game changer player meant more than anyone else. We sort of have a bit more responsibility in terms of making sure that we perform, because we're kind of competing for other future game changer talent who might want to make that jump. And I think we have to go ahead with a good example and show that that's worth it to trial these players and to consider these players for tier 1. So I think we had some internal discussions, but at the end she just outperformed. She checked all the boxes that we were looking for in our duelist player. So that's why we ended up making that choice.
Yeah. I just want to just adding on and touching upon that, because we obviously the most important thing that we have to do, and something that cannot be underestimated, is just that decision has to be made on the basis of performance. And she was like the best performer in the trials, and that's like the only basis of why we could do it. Because the worst thing we could do is like do it or take someone who were not good enough and hoping for it and not giving them like a place to sign from. And I think that's such a unique situation that we're able to have a GC player that came up and was like dominating in trials, and for both me and Einar was like the obvious pick for like our duelist. So I think that's a super cool scenario. I
think from the timing on as to how like that whole tryout process happened, it can be fair to assume that like this happened before GC Championship, because like I can assume that like that must have taken a lot of time. So maybe we're looking back onto like before GC Championship, or maybe like very near GC Championship. What was that timing like exactly?
Yeah, so the first trial happened, I think, a couple of weeks out of Champions, and then the actual decision was made during Champions, but before. So I think we had like everything pretty much settled right before the finals. So so all our players were watching the finals. Thought it was very cool experience for them, watching her win that, knowing she would join our team.
And then like obviously like when people look at the headline of Florescent joining VCT, everyone's gonna look at, okay, what exactly did she do like in those trials, and also like what made her stand out from the other candidates that were looking to fill that spot for next year. And so kind of what exactly made the difference for you guys with that in mind?
Yeah, I can begin on that. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors that we're looking at. We have like a very thought out philosophy of how we want our team to be built and what type of profiles we want. So even before trialing, we have a set kind of checklist of stuff we're looking for. And then we check off and pick out candidates that fit most of those criteria. And she already on paper like checked almost all of the boxes. And then during trials, obviously it's super important for us that our duelist is like consistently at the top of the scoreboard, which she was, like, and then by a good margin. She's an incredible performer. So that's sort of where we start. And we had towards the end, we had like 3 candidates that stood out in that regard. They were all like they shot really hard on the server. They fit most of what we were looking for. And then it comes down to factors like age can be a factor. You know, we knew that we wanted younger players. We wanted a bit more energy in our team. And that we wanted young players who come in with like a super hungry grind mentality. That's factors that we knew before trials that we wanted. And she absolutely nails those criteria. And in interviews, we're looking for, you know, if someone does incredible in trials, but maybe they didn't have the best previous season, we would ask them about it and see, you know, what's their take on why it didn't go as well. And if they only give excuses, they don't take any ownership of their performance, you know, that's a red flag. We want people who can see their own shortcomings and work on those despite how the team is performing. That's important because if the team is not performing well, if we at least have individuals that are working on themselves, you know, we can help fix the other pieces. So it's like stuff like that. A lot of different factors that come into play. And at the end of the day, she just checked all the right boxes, and she was exactly what we were looking for. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic answer, and I think it's just about when you watch her play, it's the like kind of flow state that it looks like she's in, because it's just so fluent, everything that happens. Like it's so skillful in the way that she uses the jet and different things that it's so much control over everything. Like, so I only had seen, I'm not a VALORANT expert to any extent, and Einar knows more about the game and, you know, pretty much everybody else involved in the VALORANT division. But seeing just the eye test that, you know, people use in football when you watch like Premier League or whatever, like people do the eye test, and it's kind of the same here. Watching her play and seeing the things that she does, and the ability to master the agent's abilities is just, I think, on a very, very high level. I haven't seen many other players like on the global top scene that are able to do the same.
Yep, most definitely, and that is one that, you know, people would obviously be looking forward to seeing Apeks, not just on top of just the team as a whole, but also just, you know, watching Florescent compete against the rest of the best. And so with that said, kind of want to ask about, you know, the expectations for next year, because I do understand, you know, we're running low on time, so kind of want to cut into that real quick before I wrap it up, on top of other stuff. And so what's the expectation for Apeks on top of just having to, you know, stay in VCT, right? Because like that's the goal number 1, right? So on top of that, what's the goals and things that you guys want to achieve for 2025?
Yeah. I can do the early expectations at least, because I just came from our first boot camp with the team. They're still boot camping, but I joined them for the first couple of days, and we with the 2 new players coming in, we have a lot of fundamental work to work on. We got to get our synergy going, and there's a lot of just tactical stuff and early preparations. So I don't think we have any expectations of going in with a bang in kickoff. We're so late compared to the other teams in starting our preparations, and some of the VCT teams, they only made minor changes going into the next season. So I think we obviously we hope to do well in kickoff, but our priority now is to lay the groundwork so that we can be as strong as possible going into the second half of the season.
Yeah, I can add in, and on that I think for the whole picture, it's about defending our spot. I do believe that we have put together a roster that I think can qualify to champions, because I think that everybody's looking at what Heretics did last year, and I do think that we are really good at recruiting new players that probably have lower expectations. And I do believe that our squad, on paper, in our view, with the validations that we have done, are good enough to reach that level. It makes no sense for us to go out and think that we're going to win champions. Everything is possible, but with the time frame that we have, incredibly, everybody's working super hard already, and on an organization level, that is more important for us to see the effort that is being put in than saying it's going to be a disaster if we're not top 4 in kickoff or whatever. That makes no sense. It has no value. As long as we put in the effort and we know that we're good at building the fundamentals, the results will come for sure. So that's more about finding the time and making sure that everybody's there and putting in the correct amount of effort. That will lead to results.
Yeah, and I think people are criminally underestimating our roster at the moment. I don't think people completely understand what our roster is. But if you look at the players that we have, we have Molsi, who's a super hardworking IGL, very smart player. We've seen him recently. Just has so much firepower in him. We've experimented with having a more vocal secondary players who can take some of the IGLing off him or mid-round calling, and that just enables him to absolutely destroy teams. So he has an insane amount of firepower in him. And Avova, was our best performing player throughout Ascension, and extremely consistent player and very experienced. And those are the two roles where we need a lot of experience in the IGL and our controller. Hype, I think also people are extremely underestimating, at least the fans. In scrims, we've seen him, have some incredible games, and we saw that in Ascension as well. These highlights where he can just single-handedly just take a game on his own, and combining that fundamental package with being able to develop, using especially Avova and Hype and Molsi in developing new younger players is something that has worked wonders for us. That's why we've been so successful with our young duelists in the past, and what our whole strategy has been from the start, and what we're really think we'll deliver even better on this upcoming season with the adjustments that we've made.
I know that the org has been kind of teasing the 5th person, and you guys been kind of hinting that it's from America. Since I have you here, Einar, I gotta ask you if it's all right for me to say who's the 5th.
I can't reveal the 5th, unfortunately. Okay. I can say what I can reveal is that we probably won't be able to reveal the 5th before very close to season start. So that's not going to be announced just yet. But we do have an announcement coming out tomorrow.
Okay. They're definitely going to be looking forward to that. Now kind of want to ask about the future, as in not just focusing on VCT, but also future of the org. Because I remember aNdz, you said, or maybe Einar, at the beginning of this conversation about how, getting into VCT, winning Ascension, kind of secures the future of the org and having to possibly expand into other projects, or maybe even getting back into CS. So I ask to you, what's the future like for the org? Are you guys planning on returning to CS, anytime soon?
I mean, everything is dependent on the amount of success that we get here. Like it's a little bit sad to be such short term and that volatile, but we're looking to make VALORANT our fundamental pillar. And obviously the risk that we are going into next year is that we have to defend our slot. So we're like the long-term planning, given that VALORANT is 100% of our esport operations currently, is very hard to do. So, but we have a lot of goals that we wish to do, and we're short-term wise not going into CS unless we get sponsors. I think what we did for 5 years is that we have done a lot of investment, but we were not able to find a sustainable model. And CS is 100% of the budget for us that we didn't have any lucrative sponsors was at risk every single year. And that's just not the model that we are willing to follow anymore. Even though we were confident in our ability for the team to reach majors, it's just, when Astralis can miss 4 in a row or whatever it is now, that you're entitled to nothing. And we a big team can survive that, we can't. So we have to know where we are. But we are not shutting down in any way. We're super excited about this opportunity. We are incredibly confident in our ability to build a team. And no matter the result, Apeks is going to continue. It's just that we're not going to invest in the way that we did previously. And I think that reflects a lot of how other teams are thinking as well. We can't just burn money. People are starting, including us, to think about, you have to make that penny that you spent back, So I think that reflects the mentality now. But I think we're going to take great care of this year. We're super excited for the fact that we're moving to Germany, and it's the first time that we haven't been in any partner league before, in ESL Pro League or Blast coming from CS. So this is a unique opportunity for us to see how when we can plan long term, what can we do with that. And hopefully there's going to be some exciting partnership or sponsorships agreements also for us to announce, coming up to the season and maybe even after the season has started. So I can already say that, it looks like our story is looking interesting for people to join, and that's super cool to see.
Mm-hmm. And now that, you guys now look towards kind of fielding a competitive VCT roster, I guess it'd be fair to say that the mode of the org is still kind of all hands on deck for VALORANT for 2025, because as it was in 2024, you guys made that famous statement that where you guys said, okay guys, or I'm kind of paraphrasing, but okay guys, goodbye to everybody else, hello to VALORANT, we're putting all of our eggs into that basket on VALORANT. So two-part question, still all hands on deck for VALORANT for 2025, and also kind of reflecting on that moment, what was that decision like in having to make that decision?
Having to make that decision is one of the toughest things that I've been a part of ever, because it means we had to let go of people that had been a part of Apeks since the beginning, including Kenneth, who I co-founded this with, which was incredibly hard since he was a key part of the CS division. But it was simply necessary based on the view that we had for because I couldn't confidently say that we had a team that was guaranteeing majors. Our investor was not willing to put that money down for something that is so high risk, because we made the Copenhagen major, but it was super close, and it's just not enough to make an investment of that go through, because it's so much money needed to be in tier 2 and investing into it, and it's super hard. But I think it's the best thing that could have happened, because as me and Einar, I think we're both it's easier to know our goals and what we're doing and the direction and the path of the org now than what it has been previously, because we have been trying to be a little bit more than maybe what we were, and it made us overspend in some situation and put us in positions that were slightly uncomfortable, reflecting back. And I think this year, we have a very strong and purpose. I think obviously everything, we were expecting 2 years going into VCT, right? So we thought that we could have let's say a build-up year, and learning everything, and then at worst case really going to go hard on the second year, even though we were going to put together a good roster for the first year. But on an org level, we thought we had 2 years. we have had 2 years now where we tried to win Ascension, so we're very used to the model of having to just go all in and, you know, performing it this year, and there's a lot of pressure on the line. So it's just going to be extension of the same, essentially. But every single person that is working in Apeks in connection with the Apeks now is solely focused on VALORANT. I think that's super nice for us to have as well, that we are like we're not considering going into any other titles right now. We're just laser focused on VALORANT and making sure that we use this opportunity to the best of our abilities. Because yeah, me and Einar, we have ambitions like far beyond, but there's no denying that our cards going into next year's are not fantastic, right? We had the lowest time to put together a team. We have the lowest tenure, and you know, we're trying to get sponsorships, and we have a worst case scenario, 12 matches to show for, and then we're out of VCT, right? It's not like we have a fantastic range of time or range of matches, or like able to work like 3-4 year deals or whatever. So it is a little bit volatile, but it's a challenge that I think both me and Einar is happy to take, and that we are confident that we are, you know, looking good to extend. And what I can say is that I've grown super fond of the people at Riot and the people that are working with VALORANT. I could be naive here, but just getting the chance to have dialogue with the developer and, you know, having this much information is like new to me, and I love it. And I think that we are here to stay in VALORANT no matter what happens next year.
I want to add one more question before I wrap this up. Kind of mentioned also, like aNdz, with the change of the format numerous times already in this conversation, with the not just focusing on the stay of Ascension winning teams from going, not just having 2 years to kind of work with being in Tier 1, now just having 1 year, and on top of that, just having to have a different kind of how do I say it, a different version of the VCT distribution money, because like there's a report made by Sheep about, you know, Riot cutting the content creation program and cutting like around like 400K on that. You can kind of talk about that. But how much harder do you think that is going to put into your respective org, you know, for this year, on top of just dealing with the things that aNdz already specified?
Was that directed to Einar, since you said aNdz at the end? Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Awesome.
I don't think, like going into 2023, when we first entered, we had a pretty good understanding of what to expect in terms of financials. And I don't feel like that amount has changed much, even with the reduction of the the changes that you mentioned. So I think we've had a pretty good idea of what to expect, and that hasn't really changed in terms of the finances. That's what I can say. And I think we're also excited about the prospects that we've been given from Riot in terms of what to expect from next year, and the changes that they're making for this upcoming year and also future years. So I think like right now we feel pretty confident. I think the biggest pain point we had coming into the owners meeting that Riot held just a few weeks back was the automatic relegation in top bottom 4 spots in VCT. I think that's a tough pill to swallow, not being able to fight for your spot in Ascension if you don't break bottom 4. I think that's feels very unfair. But we expressed that to them, and we got their explanation. And but I think, like Anders mentioned, I think we're aiming much higher than bottom 4. But it's just it would be very, very devastating to land there.
Yeah, I think actually, just touching back to what you said with me saying that we're not guaranteed 2 years. I'm happier with having the possibility to defend your spot. I would, because, you know, I would hate if we qualify for 2 years and then there's an automatic relegation. We never thought that format was going to play out because it seemed very, like, if you win champions, then you're out the next year. Like, just there's so many scenarios where that would just never work out, right? It would just be super odd for that team. But I would rather have this format where you have the ability to defend your spot. But the fact that if we like end on the bottom 4 and, you know, not making Ascension, not even getting Ascension and being able to defend our spot, that is a heartbreaking scenario, which I don't think that it should exist. And it's something that, yeah, I don't see that as a good solution. But that is the only thing. Other than that, super excited for next. And I think Riot treats new teams incredibly well. Like, I will have to say, like, coming from, like, you would never get this anywhere else, I think. And I'm super happy with how much they appreciate our opinion, even though we're not someone they can deem as like a long-term partner or anything so far.
And with all that said, we'll now be looking forward to 2025 and, you know, definitely looking forward to what Apeks does in the long run. And so that said, I'm going to cut the interview right here. aNdz, Einar, thank you so much for giving me a chance to talk to you about the state of the org and what we can expect for the future, both, you know, financially and then, you know, structurally and also competitively. And I'm sure the rest of the viewers will appreciate that also. So that's it, Pedro, aNdz, Einar, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.